All right. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Raghav. I'm the host for today's session. So every month in the Startup Club, we basically host this startup pitch workshop where we have an investor, which is Amiya today, and we'll bring a founder who's ready to pitch to the investor. And today that is like Sandhya and Manoj. They're from EdDeeD. So they will basically start with the session with like pitching their startup, and Amiya will basically review the pitch and um, give strategic advice and other things based on that. And everybody else is here to spectate. So please do have yourself muted. And with that said, like Amiya, please you can take forward.
Thanks, Raghav. Okay, so in this session, first let me give my introduction. So I have about 16 odd years of experience. I've been in the corporate, done consulting, product management, built products for companies like Cisco, Amazon, and subsequently started my own company. I've been a founder, and since then I've been a startup mentor with a couple of organizations, so Advani Foundation, NASSCOM's Deep Tech Club, and since then been a part of Micro VC Fund. And right now, I have a firm called Juvian Ventures where we support startups to try and figure out how to build scalable businesses, first place or not. And then we take it from there with respect to investor introductions and everything else. So that's my intro. In this session, what we are going to try and do is try and take about 15 odd minutes to do the pitch. And then I would give my inputs in terms of how a potential investor is going to look at the business and what are the different aspects that they would be evaluating a particular startup across. Try and refrain from giving a lot of information that should not be in the public domain. But otherwise, try and give your best pitch in terms of how you would take it across to an investor. Okay, so please go ahead, Manoj.
Okay, so I'd be starting off with this pitch. Okay, so hi, good morning. I'm Sandhya Viswan, co-founder of EdDeeD, and we are building India's first education marketplace to connect parents, schools, after-school providers, and educators. Manoj, next. Next slide, Manoj. Okay, our journey began around 12 years ago as a small Facebook group, which has now grown to around 81,000 plus community. We've organized 5 education expos, organically onboarded 1,500 plus schools already and 700 plus service providers. We've generated 1.2 crores in revenue and raised 65 lakhs through the CCPS. Next. So our two main focus areas are discovery and recruitment. We help parents to explore schools and after-school services based on what truly fits their child. And we help schools to hire the right talent through our recruitment arm, which is EdJobs. This creates values both for schools as well as for parents. Next. When we're talking about the education ecosystem in India, we have over 1.5 million schools, and Bangalore alone has 7,000 plus registered schools, plus thousands of unregistered preschools and alternative spaces. So this segment is highly fragmented and disorganized right now. Next. Manoj? Yeah. Coming to the problem, most parents start their school search by asking neighbors, friends, and checking Google. They know very well that these reviews are also paid and biased. But what works for one child might not work for another family or child. Even in the same family, that doesn't work. Education is a very individualistic choice. And most parents are very sure about what they don't want in a school, but they're not very clear on what they should be looking for or what is right for their family. EdDeeD solves this with a relevance-based search and a consultation model using around 40 plus parameters built from 12 years of our parent insights from the community and the group. Next. From the school side, when we had already onboarded them for the admissions, they came back to us to say that their bigger problem is recruitment, is one of their main pain points. There's no structured, affordable way to hire good teachers. Most schools cannot afford these job portals like Naukri, which charge in lakhs annually. And consultants don't engage much because the margin is very low for them. There's no structured way to connect schools with the right talent. EdJobs bridges this gap with a platform which is cost effective and easy to use even for non-tech savvy admins. Well-established schools which are not looking for admission will come on board for hiring at least. So that builds the total ecosystem as well. Next. Yeah, coming to the competition, there are other players in this space. However, they are in different pieces for us. There's no one that is integrating the discovery, hiring, and engagement as we plan to do. OutSchool is a US-based unicorn, which is focused on after-school activities. Next one. Yeah. And why are we different? We've spent around 12 years listening to around 12,000 plus parents and engaging with 125 plus schools. And we have connections and build relationships with all the stakeholders in this industry. Our team also has domain knowledge and depth. I bring in around 25 years plus of experience in this education space as a teacher, administrator, running my own preschool, curriculum builder, and as an education consultant. Manoj has 28 years plus across industries, especially in recruitment and sales. So we understand, due to the community as well, we understand this space inside out. Next, Manoj, take over, please.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is Manoj Thelakkat. I am the co-founder of EdDeeD along with Sandhya. So the whole journey started 12 years back, like Sandhya said, when we were searching for a school for our own kids. So I had a daughter who was in a conventional school in Bangalore, and I wanted a separate school for her, which did not have the same pressure on marks and other things. While she was a exemplary student, she was not enjoying school on a daily basis. So I started exploring options of finding another school which will suit her as an individual. And I realized that there is no such platform which helps parents search for the schools. Like Sandhya said, the only option was to go to a neighbor, a friend, or a colleague and ask them, where do your child go to school? And then you have a herd mentality and you follow them and send your school to the same child. I came across a very small group, which Sandhya was also part of, called the Bangalore Schools Facebook group, wherein parents were recommending schools to each other based on their personal experiences. I joined that group, and together I was able to find a school for my daughter. She went into an alternative space for her entire schooling. And that was a much, much better space for her. Now, once I found that space there, I became part of that group, and together with Sandhya, we converted that group into what it is today called as a Bangalore Schools group with almost 82,000 members. We are the largest Facebook group when it comes to education and parenting, probably in the country, with around 83% active member base. We did not stop there. We realized that beyond just being a Facebook group, there needs to be a lot more to be done to solve the problem that exists there once we went deep into the education space. We started conducting education expos. We conducted 5 education expos. We met 12,000 plus parents. We met hundreds of schools. We met thousands of educators, many students. And we realized that there are 3 critical problems that are there in the market. All of them related to search and discovery. And that is how the first phase was formed. The first part that we are solving is a search and discovery of school admissions. Second is a search and discovery of after-school programs. And third is search and discovery of careers in education. So this is the phase 1 for us, while we build the largest community of education in India, which is our North Star. We are going phase by phase, and we have brought in a team together. I come in with an experience of 28 years in sales and marketing. I've spent my time in ICICI Bank, Reliance, etc. And then last 18 years, I've been an entrepreneur running my own business in the executive search space. EdDeeD happened in 2022, and from then I've been mostly fully involved into building EdDeeD. Sandhya has 28 years of experience as an educator, built curriculums, developed schools, run her own schools, been a homeschooling parent and unschooling parent, and is the go-to expert when it comes to education in India, especially in the early childhood space. She does parent consulting, where we help thousands of parents search for the right schools or after-school programs for their children. Our product manager is Vikshak, who's an IIT Madras 2015 product, and he has created education platforms on his own over the last few years, and he's now supporting us in building EdDeeD. Our advisor on board is Sri. Sri is the past head of sales for AOL and for ASPAC, and then he has been in the venture space for quite some time, and he has been supporting us at EdDeeD in his journey for the last couple of years that we have been there. Now, when it comes to the revenue model that we have kind of looked at, we are going for a dual revenue model at this point of time, which is going to be a revenue share plus a subscription model. Now, what we understand, Amish, is that education, like many other industries, including say recruitment or other industries, cannot be solved 100% through a tech model. So you need a consultative plus a tech-enabled model, which has a human interface and a tech interface into the platform. And that is what we have built. So revenues at this point of time is going to come from three sources. The first one is when a parent is looking at a school or after-school search. The schools and the service providers give us a listing fee to be listed on the platform. And then for every admission they take, they pay a revenue share to us. Now, in this, the first part is already built. The service providers are already started giving us a listing fee. The school listing fee will be up and running in the next month or so for us. The second piece is a parent, wherein the parent pays us a consultation fee for every consultation they take. They go through our experts in terms of understanding various curriculum, various pedagogies, which school to choose, what model to go for. And for that, they are paying a consultation fee. This has been on from the last 3 months, and we are making good money in that consultation fee. The third piece is the job search fees, wherein a school will pay us a fee per job that is being posted. We also want to go with a consultation model there, wherein specific roles which the schools do not want to advertise on the platform can be sourced through a recruitment team that we will be onboarding. A couple of schools have already signed up for that model as well. Events has been something that we've been doing over the last 5 years. Last year was only exception because we were spending our time on building the platform. So we did not conduct an event in 24. We will have an event in 25. All these 5 education expos have been profitable, have been successful. So we will continue doing with that education expos, which is going to be another revenue stream for us. This is a current traction as we speak. Through the education expos that we have conducted, we have generated more than 1.2 crores of revenue. 2023-24, our revenue was 30 lakhs, but that again has been largely through the expo. 24-25, we've been focusing on building the platform, and the revenues have just started trickling in through the consultation and the listing fee that they've been paying. Our focus has been primarily in the B2B traction piece, wherein we have already onboarded almost 1,500 schools organically. We have onboarded more than 700 after-school providers organically, and more than 280 jobs have been listed on the platform as we speak at this point of time. Now, the acquisition forecast, largely in the school space, we are looking at having at least 25,000 schools by year 5 and more than 550,000 parents by year 5. Currently, we are looking at, as I said, 1,500 schools have been onboarded. 700 plus activity centers have been onboarded. We are on track in terms of building it up organically, but I think it's a multiplier effect if you're able to build it up inorganically, vertically and horizontally, expand the platform to more cities and spend in terms of customer acquisition. This could be a multiplier effect that we can look at. This is our revenue forecast as we stand at this point of time. We are looking at a revenue for year 5 around 115 crores. 1.2 crores has been generated already, has been done through the expos in the last 4 years. We have a very small burn at this point of time, just around 1,25,000 that we are burning on a month-on-month basis just to upkeep the platform and the maintenance of the platform. The reason is that the platform is already built. It is just the maintenance that is being done at this point of time. We've just started generating revenues from November of 2024, but again, it is not big numbers. It's been small numbers, and we want to increase that as we move on. We've created a 2-year revenue roadmap for us, which includes expanding to new cities. We are already revenue ready. We are looking at a major AI integration to come up in the platform because the search and discovery model that we are building in will need quite a lot of AI, will need chatbots in place so that quite a lot of queries can be addressed in the first phase itself before it comes to a consultant at that point of time. We want to continue doing our events that we've been doing over the last many years. We are looking at a lot of new revenue streams that can open up and can be discussed separately. This is a big picture that we have. Education is a very, very, very large space, and we are very definite that we are going to focus only on the K-12 space, kindergarten to 12 space. The higher education space is way more crowded, and we don't want to get in there, and we don't have the expertise in it at this point of time. Our expertise over the last 12 years lies in the K-12 space, and that's where we want to do it. In that space itself, there is so much of opportunities out there. All these are things that can be built over a period of time. What you see on top, the three key things, school admissions, after school programs, and careers in education, is the only thing that has been built at this point of time. We plan to build the rest of them on a modular format over the next multiple phases that we want to build. Our current ask is a raise of 4 crores, approximately $500,000, which is largely going to be spent between technology and marketing, 30% each. We are looking at a sales team to be onboarded, wherein we are looking at spending around 18% on them. And the rest is going to be largely, 22% is largely going to be between the infrastructure, PR, finance, statutory, etc. We've been recognized multiple times. Sandhya was a winner of the Dell Twen contest, which is a Dell Women Entrepreneur Network contest. She was an All India runner-up on that. We've been incubated at the Wadhwani Foundation, and we are incubated at Her Start, which is a special program for women entrepreneurs that is being run by the Gujarat University Startup and Entrepreneurship Council. We have won multiple awards. We've been awarded as the most innovative edtech by the Press Relation Council of India. We've been awarded as the outstanding edtech service provider by the All India School and Principals Association. We've been covered in media multiple times, recently being in the News Minute, where they showcased the journey of a Facebook group becoming the largest parenting group in the world. So that's from my side, that's from our side. Thank you so much. This is Manoj Thelakkat and my partner Sandhya Viswan, and we represent EdDeeD. Happy to answer any questions that you have at this point of time. Thanks for that opportunity once more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandhya and Manoj. Okay. So the first thing that we have here is that you guys have been operational. You're already revenue generating and everything else, right? First question is, when you say for 5 years you have been operational, that's not with the platform, correct?
So we had a phase 1 of this Amiya, which was 2019-20 when we started on the Education Expo. So that was the first part of building EdDeeD. So we were not sure on which route to take, but we wanted to dipstick study the market and understand what exactly are the problems out there, because we've been working in this space for 12 years through the Facebook group. But we really wanted to go on the ground and understand, are the problems that we are looking at aligned to what the market is requiring? So for that, we conducted the first 3 Education Expos. And that's a story in itself, because the first Education Expo was in January of 2020. Nobody had thought about such a scale of expo. We did not have the experience in conducting expos, and it was a runaway success. We had 35 schools participating. We had 2,200 registrations for that expo. We had 18 panel discussions. We had 5 contests in the expo, and it became a huge success that we actually went ahead and announced the second expo at the venue itself. Unfortunately for us, COVID hit right after that. And the expo that we were planning to do in October, where we had actually booked Nimhans Convention Hall again, had to be cancelled. But we converted that into an online education expo. And probably the first ever online education expo in the country was conducted by us in October of 2020. We repeated that in 2021. And then we again went back to offline expos in 22 and 23. Now, what it gave us was an idea in terms of what the market is. What is a parent looking at? What is a teacher looking at? What is a school looking at? And based on that, EdDeeD was formed. So if you look at this journey has been 5 years old now, but EdDeeD as a company was soft launched in December of 2022.
Okay. So when you say soft launched in December of 2022.
The platform was soft launched in 2022. We went through multiple iterations, and what you see currently is a platform that we launched in the month of December of 2023. That is what is operational at this point of time. So we are essentially, I would say, close to 2 years old, 1.5 years old as a platform, as you see in this current stage.
So when you say soft launched in 22, what was launched exactly?
So we launched EdDeeD as a platform in an event that we were conducting. And then it had to go through quite a lot of iterations because we had to finalize in terms of the three parts that we want to launch in phase one. So there were multiple other pieces that were launched when we did the soft launch. We had a discussion piece out there. We had multiple other interactive pieces out there. But then we finalized on these three things after we went through multiple rounds of discussions with schools and other stakeholders. So what you see today is the final form of EdDeeD in terms of the phase one. So soft launch was more in terms of EdDeeD.com being launched as a platform.
Okay. So 22, you launched EdDeeD.com. 23 December, you launched the platform. Correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So since 23 December, you've been operational, give or take about a year and a half.
Correct.
What has been your revenue?
23, close to around 1.3 lakhs so far.
Okay. So,
and that is primarily because the revenues to EdDeeD as a the phase one discovery options started only in November of 2024.
why is that?
Sorry?
Why is
We
that?
were onboarding. We focused more on onboarding organically all the schools and the service providers, and they were not being charged at that time. We started monetizing the service providers piece only in November, and the consultation also.
So we wanted to
So
build the initial traction on the platform. We had raised a round of CCPS fund of almost 65 lakhs. We had put in our own money. Using that, we had built the platform, completed the platform, and started organic growth of the platform in the B2B space. So we were working on getting those schools onboarded, activity centers onboarded, so that when a parent comes in, he has enough and more to search for. What we thought is that if I don't have them enough options for a parent, he comes and search for math tuition and there is nothing visible there, he will never come back onto the platform. So if you wanted to have a minimum traction in the platform, the target we had kept for ourselves was 1,000 schools and 500 activity centers. Once we reached that number is when we started charging the activity centers to come on board the platform.
okay.
So even today, we are a free platform for the schools. We have still not started charging schools because we are still trying to build the traction in terms of parents coming and searching for the schools. And the school admission season is again going to start sometime in August. So what we want to do is by June, we want to start onboarding the schools with a payment option so that the parents can come and start searching for it and take admissions in the platform.
Understood. So almost 11 months is what you took to onboard all of these schools.
Correct.
And since November of 24, you have been monetizing through the consultation to the parents, correct?
And the
Correct.
service
Consultation
providers.
to the parents and the service providers which are coming on board.
What kind of service providers are these?
These are tuition teachers, workshop providers, activity centers, camps, organizers, etc.
Understood. Okay. And when did you raise your funding?
The round was raised in July of 2023.
July of 23. Okay. How much amount have you put in for yourself?
From our side, we have put in close to 45, 50 lakhs.
Okay. Okay. So the difference between when someone hasn't raised a round of funding and someone has raised a round of funding, right? Now, I'm not sure how the conversation went at the time of raising a round of funding, but in the past almost 2 years now, how do you see that scale growing? How do you see the investors, conversations transforming? How's that journey been for you?
So, Amiya, we've been lucky enough to have 3 excellent investors who have come on board, who trusted the patient capital game that we were looking at. We knew that it is not going to be an overnight revenue churner. It needed time to build it up over a period of time. So we've been lucky enough to have them on board, and we've really not had a conversation in terms of how it is going because they have given us the time. We are having a monthly discussion with the investors. So it's been going well so far. So the 3 investors who have come on board are Sachin Shenoy of Healthify Me, We have Santosh Varghese, who's an investor from the US. We also have Asha, who's another investor from the US. So these are the three people who have invested on us at this point of time. And all of them are in touch with us, and we've been sounding it off to them. We are taking a lot of support from them in terms of the journey also. So even to an extent wherein a couple of the current vendors that we are using have also come from these investors as a recommendation.
Understood. Okay. So let's look at some of the points that you've mentioned in the slide. Okay. The problem statement that you've mentioned. Now, one of those observations that I've had is there's a lot of content around, the team and all of those things, multiple slides spanning problems and everything else, right? My recommendation is generally to make sure that you should really keep it as concise, but as effective as possible. Okay. You're probably, if you're looking to raise a round of investment soon, you would either be sending pitch decks to different people, or you would be having some sort of initial conversation, right? Your aim should be to make sure that they understand the problem that you are talking about, because in the context of this pitch, there are a few key components that I had to get more clarity on in terms of where do you stand. And then there are some other components that are completely missing. Now, if you have been operational for the past 5 years as EdDeeD.com, since you launched your platform, since you started monetizing and everything else, one of the biggest questions that I have is that, what do you think is the awareness level of EdDeeD.com in the people in the market? And from the conversations, what I understood was that you're mainly operational in Bangalore.
Correct.
Right. So 2 components that you should really cover additionally. First, your GTM, which is not present at all. So I don't know how you are taking this product to the market in the first place. Second thing is that I don't know how many cities you're operational in. Right. These are very strong points, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to land an impression on the potential investors to say that, look, I understand that I haven't monetized for so long. I understand that, I want to give the impression that this is a long game. But at the same time, what is my expanse? How fast, how far have I reached? That impression I didn't get. Okay. So that's something that I would recommend you to sort of look at in the first place. Now, going back to the problem statement itself. If you can just share the deck as well, that will be helpful. Okay. So when you're talking about the problem statement, what you have mentioned is challenge, concern, options, etc., right?
Right.
No worries. Okay. So parents are searching for the right school, after school activities, huge demand supply gap. Okay. Now, so when I'm looking at these statements, right, and this is something that we work with founders in Juvian Ventures as well. What you have mentioned are observations, right? These are the observations. But what is the problem because of this? So a typical problem statement would sound like, parents end up sending their children to a school where they are unhappy. And subsequently, XYZ thing happens. Or it takes parents XYZ kind of time, effort, energy, money, whatever. Right? So when you're looking at a problem, it has to go beyond observation. Most of what you have mentioned in the problem space, these are observations. So you have to really figure out the problem. Simple thing to say that an observation is AI is growing too fast, and there is a lot that can happen, a lot of disruption that can happen with it. But that's not a problem. That's an observation. The problem would be that because of AI advent, a lot of BPO jobs would be lost. Right? So this is a problem. And then to lay the impact that since the advent of ChatGPT or since the advent of agentic AI over the past couple of years, we have seen 73% or 53% or 20% people in the BPO space losing their job.
Understood.
So the impact of the problem that has to really come out. What is the impact? And those are generally very solid points. They are either research driven from your ground reports or from research papers or something like that, where you have to consolidate and say that this is the number, 73%, 20 lakh, 5,000, whatever, or 500 hours, whatever it is, that has to really come out. Okay. So I would suggest
You're
that
saying
when you're
it has to be quantifiable is what you're saying in terms of the effort. Okay.
More than quantifiable. I can read this challenge that you have mentioned. I can even correlate, but there is no sense of urgency that it is giving me. There's no sense of the scale and the impact it's giving me. So it could personally, let's just say that you are talking to an analyst. Typically, you would be talking to an analyst or an associate, right? If you're going for an institutional investment, if you're talking to an angel investor, that's fine. They might probe you more, ask you more questions, etc. But the 15 minutes that you're going to get with an analyst or an associate, they need to understand the impact. And one of those biggest things that most people don't understand is that you're not the only startup pitching. In the same week, an analyst or an associate would have probably spoken to 50 plus other startups. You have to make an attempt to stand out in comparison to the rest of the 50 or 49 startups that have been there.
Makes sense. Understood.
So when you're defining your problems, be very concise, very clear. What is the impact? What is the sense of urgency that you're bringing to the table? Okay, so that's with respect to the problem. That's something that you need to identify and maybe sort of weave into your pitch deck itself. Okay, let's move on to the solution.
On the same slide.
And there is a comment by Sarvesh as well, which is very valid, to say that investors' responsibility to identify impactful startups, they should have a clear SOP to spot real potential. Now, what he's trying to get to, I'm assuming, is to say that most investors will have their own thesis. They know what guardrails they are supposed to follow, and they have their own perception and bias in terms of what is the impact that a particular startup is going to have. And that's the side that I'd probably talk about a bit later as well, because you have to really get into the investor mindset as well, and then try and figure out what is it that the investor wants out of this particular investment. Right? That's a very critical piece. You have your understanding, and Sandhya, you've been into the psychology space. You understand that at the end of the day, the person you are talking to, they have to have some sort of vested interest. Right? There is a certain outcome that they're expecting out of this. So guardrails, one piece. Outcome, can they see that future where that outcome is getting materialized? That's another important factor. Right? Okay, so moving on to the solution slide. And I'm sort of moving a bit fast in the interest of time so that I can cover more ground, but sort of give you a sense of where you should be looking to build more in terms of what you have written and the narrative and the picture and everything else.
It's in the same slide, the black box.
Okay. So, see, when we are talking about the solution, what I see a lot is the features. Okay. What I need to see, and Manoj, you're coming from a deep sales background. You don't sell features. You sell emotions. You solve problems. Right? Me saying that you are going to save 100 hours of your time, me saying that this solution is going to guarantee your child's happiness for the next 15 years of their life or the next 10 years of their life, that lays a lot more impact than saying relevant-based search, etc., etc. Right? So when you're putting a solution, put on a sales mindset as well. Classic sales techniques. I'm trying to build a relationship through words. What is that relationship? Where is it that someone is indexing and saying that my child has been unhappy because of this particular reason in this particular school? Now, your solution could be, I'm presenting to you an option that increases the probability of your child's happiness by 50%. Okay. So make sure that the solution has more emotional content, or at least the impact, the sense of urgency that you've created in the problem that is getting attended to, than just listing down the features.
Okay, so I have a question regarding that. So when this pitch deck is mostly directed to the investors,
Sure.
rather than users who would be coming. So would
Sure.
would that work when I'm addressing or telling the investor? Would probably be looking at what are we going to do, right? The technical was what I understood. So we have different pitches for the
No,
users.
I get it. I get it. But think about it this way. An investor is also a human being, right? They also have a friend circle. Even if, let's just say that I don't have a child myself, I know people who have children. I know people, and assuming that I have been, see, it's all a bunch of assumptions and hypotheses at this particular layer, right? What you're trying to do is get someone to think more in terms of how is it that you're alleviating someone's problem. The feature is a follow-up question. If you tell me that I am ensuring that a child's happiness index goes up by 75% once they join a school, when you're done with your pitch, I am automatically going to ask you, how is it that you're making sure that this happens? So this point will probably never get missed. But the tone that sticks, or what is it after 15 minutes of your pitch, what is it that should remain stuck in my mind? You are making sure that someone's child's happiness becomes 75% better. That is what is going to stick in my mind. And that's the psychological inception that you are trying to do here. You can give me a relevant-based search and consultation model and everything else, but that doesn't stick because that's what I hear every day. Right? So in this 15 minutes, you have to make sure that something sticks in the other person's mind. A keyword, a phrase, a statement, which they can emotionally attach to. Now, this is just the first level, not to say that this is going to materialize into anything, but now they remember you. Now they have a recall factor. If your numbers work out, and because you are at a revenue generation stage, you have already raised a round of investment, the conversation is going to go in a very different route. Okay, it's more about numbers. It's more about what have you done, what your financials are like, what your margins are like, why have you not been able to do this, how many people have you been able to reach, what your marketing engine is like, what your GTM approach is like. So the entire conversation is going to go into that direction majorly because of the stage that you are at. But I still remember you. Even if I don't invest in you right now, and you actually are able to materialize certain things down the line, you've built a relationship here. 6 months down the line, if you reach out to me again and say that, hey, look, this is what I promised, this is what I have achieved, and the numbers are really working out, would you want to take another look? Or, maybe another year down the line when you're looking to raise a round of investment, you could have another round of conversation, but the recall factor would be a better option than to say that I'm just another startup and here is a bunch of features that I'm building. It's all about relationship building as well. It's not about immediate investment at all. Hooks,
Absolutely.
they are important. Story, narrative, that is very, very important. Okay. So that's with respect to the solution. Let's move on. We have got about 20 minutes more. Okay. Competition. See, this does not give me any clarity because at the end of the day, you have to, again, coming from an investor perspective here, any investor, any analyst or associate, they are your first point of contact. They are the ones who are going to be your internal champions within the institutional organization. I'm not talking as much about angel investor here, right? but they are your internal champions. At the end of this exercise, once you pitch, and if they are interested, they will go back, ask you more questions. There'll be a round of back and forth, and then they'll be developing something called an investment memo. They will be answering, they'll be doing the research for all of these things, what the competition is like. What this doesn't tell me is, where do you really stand in terms of the entire spectrum of how a competitor's business looks? Okay, now let's do a quick sales analysis. So, Manoj, if I remember correctly, you've worked for a few organizations, ICICI, right? If I were to ask you, where does ICICI stand in comparison to HDFC Bank or a Kotak Bank? You would give me a spectrum of variables and a framework to say that, look, across these variables, this is how I stand out, right? That is the picture that I need. Your understanding of the market itself, the competition itself, indirectly, your understanding of the market gets reflected in your understanding of who else is there, who else is there, what is it that they are doing, what are the variables that I should be comparing myself against, and where do I really stand out? It's not a problem to acknowledge that company X is doing better in ABC variables than me, because that's an aspiration for me to get to. But here are the PQR variables where I am doing better. This is what I'm looking to leverage, and then eventually plug the gap on ABC variables.
Okay.
Right? But what this particular thing does not give me a picture of is, how well do you understand the market from a competitive point of view? Because what I see is a bunch of text. And again, psychology here. How much of a reading time do I have to go through all of this? I'm not going to be able to read through all of this. I'm just looking at keywords. My eyes just naturally scanning and seeing, okay, 3CR, 365 number jump out more because they are easy to read. I don't have to form them in my head. Okay, 75 million Series A, Series C, someone has raised, okay, funded 200K. These are easier to read. But then to read through the rest of it is a bit of a challenge. So what I want is a representation, or what I want every startup to do is a representation where they could come back and present a meaningful picture to me to say that these are the variables that control this industry. This is how these companies are placed across these variables. This is how I am placed across these variables. This is where I'm looking to leverage what I've been doing, and I'm doing relatively well in comparison to someone else. These are the other variables where someone else is doing a relatively better than me, but I'm looking to build on what I have and move to that and eventually look to get a better market share. Okay. So in my experience, and there could be people out there who could disagree. They would be like, okay, this is absolutely fine. This is all my experience and what I've seen across past few years in terms of talking to various investors, me being a founder, me helping startups in terms of mentorship, etc., etc. Right? This is what I've seen. So take it with a pinch of salt. My bias is coming to the fore here. Okay.
So I think Amiya, it's also that
it's always welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's also a school of thought, because when we initially had it, it was more like a representative thing that we had, saying that, okay, EdStoke is doing this, this is a tick mark, this is a tick mark, this is not their kind of a stuff. And we were advised to change that.
Yeah, we would explain also why we are different from our competitors, but then, yeah. So
and then we got this thing that, okay. Yeah. But the point taken, I think I understood what you're trying.
It's not a feature comparison. Understand that.
Understood.
Right? It's the market lever
more in
comparison.
terms of an achievement. It's an achievement comparison, if I can put it that way.
No, not achievement. Market lever.
Or a business. Also, one of the things that one of our competitors that we would always speak about is their business model is also different from ours, where we were at a better. We would speak about
could
it.
Be one of those variables. It could very well be that there is a competitor out there who's not focusing as much on your third party or your service providers. So you could put that the persona is being focused on. That's one of those variables. Now someone understands that you have got a very clear segment differentiation in terms of who is it that you are focusing on. Right? But when you're looking at a business, look at it as a business. Your competitor is also a business. What are those market levers that are moving this business? If you understand the market, you understand those levers. If you understand those levers, those levers will help me understand better. And when I'm going back and doing my own research, now you have also given me points to say that these are the levers that you could potentially look across. Otherwise, I'm going and doing my own research and trying to figure out my own levers. And maybe if you have not given me any levers and I see 4 points here and I come up with 10 points, I see that you have not even included 6 more points.
Mhm.
Right. Then I've got a very different impression in terms of how well do you understand the market and the competition in the space itself. Okay. So the objective of this particular slide is to give a very realistic picture and make sure that someone understands that you understand the market, who are the players in the market, how are they performing, what are those levers, and everything else. Right? That's my impression of it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Our differentiation, okay. See, our differentiation is good in terms of what you are bringing to the table. But when I'm looking at a pitch deck, I'm actively trying to figure out that why is this the right time for me to invest? So why now is also a very critical slide. What is it, what specific insight that you have unlocked that makes me believe that this is the train that I want to ride on for the next XYZ years so that I can get to a certain return multiple? Right? Your value does not equate to this is the right time. And I guess one of the other observations that I've had is to say that you've been doing this for 12 years. You have been operational as EdDeeD.com since 2020, right? So if I'm looking at why is it that since 22, you haven't been the most well-known name in Bangalore? Then I'm also asking myself, and again, that was the first line of questioning, that why is it that I don't know about you? I have a child. Right? The first line of questioning is why is it that I don't know about you? You have a lot of experience, you're doing a lot of good work, but why is it that I don't know? So there is something that you are lacking at. What is that thing? What should give me the confidence that if I invest in you right now, you are going to do exceptionally well over the next 2 years before potentially you get to your next round of investment, or break even, profitable, on the path of positive cash flow and everything else. But where is the gap? That's where my mind went to first up. Right? So why now? Try and think about this. Why is this the right time for someone to look at you and say that EdDeeD is where I should put my money? And also remember that you are one of those 50 startups in a week that an analyst or an associate is talking to. So the impressions that you're putting out there, the verbiage that you're using, that has to make sure that even if I'm going through it, it's not a bunch of texts. It's something that, classic example, you have been into the recruitment space, right? How much time does a recruiter spend on a resume?
6 seconds.
How much, this is your resume. How much
Absolutely.
time, if I'm getting 50 startups a week, and then I've got a bunch of research and analysis and internal meetings and this and that and events and everything else to do, how much time am I spending on this?
Totally.
Something needs to stick out for even to capture my attention in the first place. Right? So that's where I think there is a little bit of work that you need to do to make things stick out. So why now? Try and see if you can include that slide. That will be very helpful for someone to assess and figure out, even for you to figure out that should you be raising a round of investment in the first place? Are you ready? Do you have that kind of scale? Do you have that kind of traction? Do you have that kind of margins that you could make? What sort of return multiple you could give to an investor as well? Because understand this, and maybe a very brute statement, but the world is moving to a more technology-focused industry, right? You have mentioned in your roadmap that there is an AI component to what you're doing and everything else. But apart from that small mention, the technology doesn't take any center field in everything that you're doing. So as an investor, what am I underwriting? And I'm hoping you understand the concept of underwriting. Like, what am I backing here? Right? Most investors, there is a huge level of FOMO. They don't want to miss out on the ride. So they are looking to underwrite certain things. There are some investors who are purely okay with traditional businesses. Then there are some who are not, who are specifically looking, are you making the next drone? Are you making the next quantum computer? Are you curing cancer? Are you doing X? Are you doing Y? These things happen. This is the reality. What is it that you're presenting to me that I could look at and say that, okay, this is what I'm looking to underwrite. This is what gives me the confidence that this could become the next big thing.
Understood.
Okay. So that's that. Let's move on to the next slide quickly. A lot of time spent on this. So Sandhya spoke about this at length. Manoj, you spoke about this at length. While this is very, very important, but you could probably be a bit more succinct about this. And given your background, I would want this slide to come up. You want the first impression. See, who am I talking to? If I know that I'm talking to someone who has got this kind of experience in the industry, my confidence goes up to say that, okay, now I'm more willing to listen to you. People don't respect people. People respect positions.
This used to be a second slide in the original deck.
Why did you bring it down?
The
We were
first
told
feedback
to.
given, yeah, the incubating.
Through multiple rounds of discussions
Yeah.
when it happened, then it kept on coming out, because we knew that this is our best sell, because the
It
team
is.
behind it has been
And the
spending so
story.
much of time.
And the
So
story
I'm
of the group and what we do was our strongest first two
It is.
slides.
See, again, okay, so I'm sensing an observation here. You're moving according to the inputs that you're getting. What's your stand?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them,
Okay.
because
You have to really do things that make sense to you and say no to things that don't make sense to you. A lot of things that I'll say that don't make sense to you, reject it. I'm not running your business. I'm not building your business, right? I'm just an observer here who has listened to you for 15 minutes. And by no measure, I am the right person to give you a lot of gyan in terms of what you should do, right? But why am I doing this? Is because there is a certain bit of an experience in terms of how I have seen things. And that's what I'm trying to leverage to tell you what I have seen. You have to pick and choose what makes sense to you, but stick to what makes sense to you. Take your stand, be assertive about it, right? This is your bestseller, by the way. So anybody, you don't open by saying that, this is what I'm doing. You always open with your bestseller. Look at this. This is what I have achieved. This is what I've done in the past, 2.5 decades of my life. If you can't trust 2.5 decades of experience and what I'm saying, I don't know what to tell you to trust. You're building trust here, right? This is your best trust maker. Okay, moving on to the next one, please. This slide was a little bit confusing for me, given the story and the narrative and the journey you have presented. One of those other things that I want us to say that, see, you talk about being operational over the past 5 years, but your platform hasn't been. So the rest of it has to be a footnote. You could say that, we started doing this in 2020, we ran a bit of expos, then 23, we started building the platform, then 24, we started monetizing it. And since then, this is what I have done. Because otherwise, it comes off as you've been operational for 5 years. But no, you haven't. You haven't even had a platform for 5 years. And then the line of thinking changes. So coming out with it upfront helps me understand that you did a bit of things to understand the market, talk to more people and do XYZ things. And then you moved on to building a platform. And now I'm looking to back EdDeeD, the platform, as much as EdDeeD, the company. Right? So when you're talking about EdDeeD, the platform, this representation can become more real. What is it that you are doing, that you have already done and have already monetized? What is it that is upcoming? When I'm looking at your revenue model, what I don't want is to see a bunch of revenue model options. What I want to see is that what you've already monetized, again, depending on the stage of the company. It's not one size fits all. If you've already monetized that, put already monetized. If you're looking to monetize in June, July, whatever time frame, say that this is the next revenue model that we're looking to unlock in the next 2 months. Otherwise, in my mind, I'm thinking that you've already got all of these things going. And when I'm looking at the next slides to figure out where your traction is, I'm thinking you already have all of these things. Why is it that you have not been able to gain more traction? I may question you about it. I may not question you about it, but then that does not work in your favor if I don't question you about it. So show that growth to say that unlocked, going to unlock in the next 2 months. This is what is going to drive further revenue. Okay, simplify this a little bit. Okay, moving on to the next one, please. Okay, this slide is confusing. You spoke about 2020 to 2024. You spoke about 23 to 24, but nothing about 24 to 25. So here's the story that I started, again, resume format. I joined my company. I started my work life in 2020, and then I did XYZ things. And then I did something in 23, 24. And now I'm sitting in 25, 26, talking to you. What happened to the rest of it? So the gaps that you are putting here, they do not help reduce my fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They actually build it up. And then if I probe more and figure out that this 1.2 CR that you're quoting, that has been before the platform came into the picture, and now your focus is on the platform and a lot of other things, that I don't know how to look at it from a perspective of what should I underwrite. So your traction needs to be very clear. It should not be misrepresenting in terms of how long have you been operational, how much money have you raised through generated, how much revenue have you generated through the platform and everything else. Right? Be very clear. Even if it's 1.3 lakhs is what you mentioned, if I remember correctly. So if it's that,
Yes.
then say that. There's nothing wrong with it. What's going to happen is I may not have interest right now, but then you will again find people who might have interest. And you can come back to this particular person 1 year down the line and say that, look, now I have this traction and I'm raising another round of investment. So most pitches, people look at, I want an investment right now, but that's not about it. You're building a relationship. If you're serious about your business, you're looking at the next 10 years of your life. And any person you meet, anybody you talk to, you want them to be your friend. You don't want them to look at it as these guys misrepresented something. I don't know if I can trust them in the long run. Right. So even if it doesn't happen right now, make sure that everything that you're putting in this deck is represented in a manner which is fair, which gives a very clear picture of everything it has been. Good, bad, doesn't really matter. You will continue to build your business. You will continue to grow. And once you get to a certain point, you will have some of these people come back to you and say that I've been tracking your journey. I loved you as a founder, and I'm willing to back you up, given this little bit of traction that you've shown me over the years. That is what you are trying to get to. Okay. So just to change this representation, that would probably make things clearer in terms of what you want the perception to be. Okay.
Sure.
Next one, please. what is this B2B acquisition? Remember, the word acquisition is a very strong word in this space, especially from a VCPE point of view. So I'm assuming this is your customer acquisition. When you say B2B acquisition, I'm thinking, are you looking to get acquired? But no, you are looking at acquiring more B2B customers. So this needs to be rephrased to say this is your customer acquisition forecast. Right? Okay. No contention about these numbers. I don't know enough to talk about it, but fair. Okay, revenue forecast. So year 5 revenue projection of 115 CR. That's fine. Okay. This slide and after this, one of those things that I didn't see you talking enough about or emphasizing enough about is the platform itself. The assumption or the hypothesis that came out of the conversation was that my platform is built and I'm done. But that would hardly be the case. Once you start using the platform, you will have so many feedbacks, requests coming your way to optimize your platform a certain way. When I'm looking at your utilization as well, I didn't see enough emphasis go on product development. And maybe you talk to your product guy and they will also tell you that any product you put out in the market cannot remain the same for 5 years. You will be very quickly outpaced. And also think about it this way. How long did it take for you to build this platform? Yeah, that's a question for you.
Yeah. It did take more than we wanted it to be honest, because
no, just a number. How long did it take?
Almost
The
a year.
platform was built in 8 months.
8 months. Okay. But you went through a different cycle of how to think about the product, how to think about the features, how to think about XYZ things. Now, if it's out there, can someone else build it? And I'm assuming if they know what to build, their cycles would be much lesser.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So even if you get out there in the market and someone knows about you, and I've seen this firsthand, one of my portfolio companies that I'm working with right now, 3 months ago, one of the competitors, they were doing something completely different. These guys got into the market. Now their website is completely changed. It's exactly doing what these guys are doing. This happens. That's why competitive analysis is a very real thing. If you're not focusing on the product, someone will outpace you. You can survive maybe for another year, but then someone else will focus on the product. Someone else will focus on the UX. Someone else will focus or do things differently to make sure that the market share or the capture of the schools or parents that you have, that shifts. Right. The most important question when you're looking at this particular business is to figure out that how is it that you're going to stand out against your competitors? Okay. Either your product has to have something that stands out and say that no one else can do this. Even if they want to do this, it will take them 2 years. Or it could be operations, the way I'm doing this, or it could be your service, or it could be your finances. It could be the money that you're charging. Any of these things, or a combination of these things, but something has to really stand out. Something has to give me the confidence that if I'm putting money in this and it goes out there in the market, 6 months down the line, I won't see a similar product, a similar service and everything else. And they might be doing something better. Right? So that's one of those reasons why you will see a lot of investors passing on the deals. Simple reason is they cannot build the confidence that you could be the only company doing this at a certain scale, or you could be only of the top 3 or 5 companies doing this at a certain scale. The market is huge. There is scope for maybe 5 to 10 players in this market doing the same thing. But could you be one of those companies? And that's a small percentage of investors that will bet on this. Most want a monopolistic mindset. I am the only one doing this. Right? So when you're looking at this, focus more on the product as well. Your utilization has to talk a bit more of the product evolution. It will happen. I've built products for years. I don't know any product that remained the same that it was in the first month of launch. Right? Literally 6 months down the line, the product changes. There are new features coming in, features getting removed. Right? There's no consumption. There's no traction on those particular features. So you run a bunch of product management tricks and tips and everything else, and you figure out what's working, what's not working. You remove and stop focusing on things that are not working. You start doubling down on things that are working. That's how product evolution works, right? So focus more on the product as well. Feels ignored right now.
You mentioned it and not in the slide, though. Yeah, I get
Okay.
that.
Now, this is fine for the rest of it. Again, the representation of it, because 1.2 CR has little to no bearing on what the product does. It's what you have done prior. Okay. Adds value, certainly, to say that you have already been able to do something and achieve something and show some traction. But that's not the current state. It's a lot more than that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, roadmap is fine. It's fairly into the future, so no comments there. What is the objective of the big picture?
But there's a lot more opportunity in this space for us to do. Right now, we're focusing on only the search and discovery and the
Okay. So shouldn't this be ingrained in your roadmap?
We right now are planning only for these three in the next 5 years to first get traction and have a foundation here before even touching any of this. We just wanted to show that there are more opportunities which we could be working on.
So think about it this way. There are two things that are happening here. One, your current snapshot. Okay. Second, your roadmap. Right? If the big picture is even beyond your roadmap, what's the point? If I need to first make sure that I survive now, I'm able to execute for the next 2 years, and then the rest of it becomes relevant. You can say this in the passing that there is a lot more to this. You can have this as a backup slide when you're sending this to someone. But to spend time on this, something that is way beyond in the future, what's the point? While I understand that it's important to show, as a founder, you're always thinking in the future and you're trying to figure out, how big this could be. But if you're not able to convince me right now that I can do this and back me up, then that's just a pipe dream. Right? Have this as a backup slide. You could, if someone is interested, you could talk to them about it. And again, one of those things when I'm looking at maybe your first few slides, what I didn't see was a vision of the future that you have. What I mean to say is, this slide should go into one line and at the top of your slide to say that this is the future that we are building. Okay. Simple enough to say that I'm building something, and just as an example, I'm building something where the entire mining industry is revolutionized. The number of people working in the mines goes down by 90%. And I'm building that. Now, that gives me a future that you are looking at And first question, first touch point, do I believe in this future? Am I willing to back this future? Then I move to the next parts. If you're presenting me some narrative where I don't believe in the future, I'm not going to be as attentive. I may listen to you, but then listening is very different from understanding and imbibing and everything else. Right? I might ask some questions, but that is not going to materialize into anything. So make this a one-line thing about the future, put it up top so someone can see and understand what is the future that you're building. Okay. Next slide, please. We're already 10 minutes over. Okay. Very important thing. More product, but what is it that you want to achieve out of this fundraise? I'll give you 4 CR. For how long? What do you want to achieve out of this?
Manoj, largely we want, like you asked before, the visibility is what we wanted to, because we know.
One of the answers there, Amiya, is the question that you asked, that why are we not being able to, why do you not know us? Because largely it has been organic. So if I look at the 1,500 schools which have been onboarded, or the parents who have onboarded, or the service providers onboarded, have largely been onboarded through my group that I have. If you are not part of the group, you may not have known us. And we've really not spent money on digital marketing or events. So it's been a very close-knit group that we've been working on. And whatever word of mouth has happened through that. So one of the reasons that we want that money is to ensure that we are known for the work that we are doing. And that's where the money is going to come in. So one is the marketing piece that we are talking about, which we have really not done at this point of time. So whatever we have raised, whatever we have done so far has been purely organic, only through our own connects. Even if you're doing some meta ads, it has been something that I've done, or a video that Sandhya is doing, educational things that we're doing, etc. So we want that. So that is number one. And that will ensure that we are achieving the target of that 550,000 parents that we want to achieve. Second is the monetization part, which is going slow, because we've really not been able to go aggressive and monetize it, because there needs to be money spent on the features that we are building for the schools also. We also need to ensure that the revenue share model is built in, so that we are able to charge the schools and the service providers for every admission that is done, which needs a lot of technology architecture intervention. That is where the money is going to be spent on. We've really not mentioned it point by point, but if that makes sense, then we can definitely add that. We've just mentioned the headings out here in terms of where the money is going to be spent.
Okay, that's utilization. Understand the difference. I didn't ask about utilization. I asked about what is it that you want to achieve.
Yeah, number of parents and the revenue that is coming in. That is what we want to achieve.
Okay. So let me give you an example. Me saying that I'm raising 4 CR, which is going to last 18 months, and my expectation is, or I'm striving to make an effort to make sure that by the end of the 18th month, I achieve a MRR of say 30 lakhs. Okay. Do you see the difference? Now I'm very clear. How long is this supposed to last? That gives me also a picture as an analyst or an associate or an investor to say that when your potential next follow-on round could be. When I'm doing my financial modelings, what should I expect to say that, okay, I'm coming at this stage, the next follow-on, it could be at this stage, the subsequent could be at this stage, given how you're moving forward with things. And then this is when I could potentially be looking for an exit. Right? The representation that you have, it does not give me any picture of when I should be looking at an exit. Or can I even hypothesize for an exit? Second, it does not give me a clear, aggressive mark that you've put, or target. You come from a sales background. I would expect a lot more. Sales works on targets. If you can't give me a target of what is it that you're trying to achieve in the next 18 months, or 24 months, or 12 months, then you're undermining your prior experience. Right? You could
So when you're
pretty much
saying
put it
that, are
as,
we, I mean, just to understand, when you're saying that, are we saying that we should put up the numbers, be it be customer numbers, revenue numbers, MRR, EBITDA, whatever it is, you put those numbers out
not
there?
so
Is
much
that
as EBITDA, not so much
okay?
as EBITDA, but certainly your customer numbers. You could certainly, so your B2B customer acquisition that you did a yearly breakdown, but you did,
So
how long is
my
this
pitch
supposed
should
to
be,
last?
yeah, my pitch should be, if you fund me 4 crores, I will hit an MRR of 30 lakhs. I will have 1 lakh customers on board, and I will be making an ARR of so much. Okay.
ARR maybe
Something
not so much, depending on how long this is supposed to last. Because if you
okay.
say 18 months,
So
you
since
won't
it
really
is
have a
18
lot of
months,
impact.
maybe MRR there.
But that gives me a very clear picture that even if right now I invest in you, if I'm considering a follow-on round, I will look back at this, and then I will try and figure out that did you achieve what you said you achieved? Should I invest in you further or not? Do I come on as a follow-on investor or not? Right? So all of these things, they're very subtle, but they are more to do with psychology, storytelling, narrative, and everything else, right? But their underlying principles ensure that you have thought through things. You cannot just randomly go and put something in. Even if you tell me 30 lakh MRR, I'll go and ask you for a MIS. Now you need to back it up. I will also ask you, why is it that since November 24, you have only been able to do 1.3 lakhs in the past 6 odd months? You are a revenue generating operational startup, have to show some traction. And there are lots of questions that I have in terms of why you are where you are, why not so much more? And then the question and answer would also go into where is it that you're failing? Where is it that your conversions are not happening? What are the kind of feedbacks that you're getting? So I don't have enough time here to talk about a lot of these things, but there is so much more to this than what you've represented right now. Right? It could be so much better in terms of at least what you put on paper. You still have to work a lot in terms of making sure that the business story, the actual business snapshot of the past 6 months does not remain the same. It has to be literally 10x more. 6 months, 1.3, so many gaps, potentially speaking. There needs to be a lot of question and answer and back and forth to understand why. Right? But this is a business. As an investor, I'm looking to invest in a business. I have expectations of what sort of ROI I want out of this. And if you're not able to create a track record that shows me that you can get me there, that's a red flag for me. I would much rather want to back someone who says that, boss, I've been operational 6 months, I've generated 50 lakhs. And there are startups out there. Right? So that's the challenge here. Few things that you haven't mentioned and you should. GTM. Admittedly, your marketing budget utilization is 30%. I have no notion of how you are doing your marketing. You haven't touched upon it. I don't know how you plan to do your marketing. I see technology, but I don't know what technology means here. Right? Product and technology, two different things. Technology could be anything also apart from the product. You could tell me that I'm planning to put robots in the schools. Nothing to do with your product as such. I'm going to give teachers iPad. Nothing to do with your product. That is also a technology expenditure. Right? So this representation needs to be in such a way that I get a clear snapshot of what's happening. Your business, and again, one of those probably highly biased opinions, but I would put it out there so you know how someone could be thinking about this. I see difficulty in terms of how someone could perceive it as a business that could create a real moat or a niche in the market. The only way that can happen is if your operations and your customer experience really stand out to the extent that no one else can replicate that. Technology wise, maybe 2 years down the line, you'll have something, really exceptional. But right now, I don't have that perception or the picture where I could say technology stands out. Okay. The struggle would be that both of these points in terms of operations or user experience is not something that you can showcase without doing it. You have to really do it, and only then you can show this. Otherwise, you can show a lot of background, but that doesn't mean that you will be able to achieve it. It's a lot of post factor. Right. So, and the track record of the past 6 months, that doesn't speak in terms of alleviating my fears, uncertainties, and doubts in terms of, can you do this? You could have your own reasons for it, but then would you have the time to talk to someone about for 2 hours and help them understand all of these things? Probably not. You'll only get about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour. And of this, 15 to 20 minutes is what you are talking. So give or take about 30 to 40 minutes is maximum is what you're getting. In 40 minutes, how much of it can you really make someone understand? So the struggle would be very real. You have to really make sure that you are able to do a lot of these or overcome a lot of these operational challenges. And frankly speaking, I would probably do things very differently in terms of the approach that you have had, right? But I have my own reasons for it. So, yeah, I think that's my input on the deck. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me and tolerating everything.
Thank you, Amiya.
But happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, I think it is very useful, Amiya, because quite a lot of insights, and I think a lot of stuff that Sandhya and I talk about, and we have changed to accommodate some stuff. I think it is getting revalidated in terms of the original story idea that we had. So I think that is one learning, definitely. GTM is something that definitely was missed out because it was there when we initially started it off. I think it got missed out. But one thing which I really stood out is in terms of the fund utilization part, which we've really not worked on that. And the other thing which for me was more in terms of the solution part, which is bean features that we've been talking about. So I think these are the standout things for us, and those are things that I'm going to work on it today itself, and then get these things corrected before the next discussion happens, for sure. The confidence that we have are two things. One is that as a pre-revenue startup, we were funded. People had the trust in us in terms of what we are building. Two, we are a community. We built a community of 81,000 parents over the last so many years.
Sure.
The third is the team that Sandhya and I are in terms of what we've been building over the last so many years and what we want to try and build it. So these are the confidence that definitely we have. And when we talk about product, market, and people, I think it is in place for that. But the storytelling definitely needs some work, and we will definitely work on that.
I would also probably, maybe as a counter to what you said, pre-revenue, you're not selling traction. You're selling everything what you mentioned. Now I can't say you are pre-revenue. You are operational. You have been operational for 6 months. Now my thinking has shifted from what you said to what the numbers say. Right? That is the shift.
That needs to stand out. Absolutely.
So if I was still having this pre-revenue conversation, a lot of things that I said in this conversation, if you look back and go and watch some of the other videos, right, those conversations are very different. They are pre-revenue. But this conversation is different because you projected a picture of 1.2 CR in 5 years, which I came to realize that it's not really what I'm trying to, or what you're trying to sell to me as an investor, or what I'm looking to back as an investor. It's actually 1.3 in 6 months. Now the entire psychology of money has come into the picture rather than everything else that you spoke about. That's the difference, right? So, and that's where the struggle will be. So that's where you need to sort of prepare yourself in terms of how do you look at the operations? How do you make sure that the efficiencies are brought into the system? The focus is on the business, focus goes on sales, focus goes on revenue. Because the longer you go without generating revenue, and even if you say 1.25 lakhs a month as cash burn, to do everything else, you need money. Sales, marketing, your GTM, your different channels, optimizations, even building products further, any sort of outreach that you do, everything else will need money. So where are you burning it from? How long can you sustain? So one of those questions that I would actually ask you, what's your runway? And 1.25 lakhs burn, not something that I agree with, because then you're not optimized for the business. You're optimized for the product. If you were actually running a business, this would be a lot more. Because you are spending a lot on marketing. While you want to say that organic is X, but then still, if you're saying that I'm raising money for marketing, that means you see a real scope for growth in terms of marketing and sales. Where does that come into the picture now? What are you doing about it? So it's a different perspective. Maybe just go back, think about this a little bit, but keep this in mind. You are operational. Most conversations are going to be about money. People may be willing to back you up in terms of what you have, but then they will also ask you that if you have all of these things, why in the past 6 months you haven't been able to do a lot more? That's the biggest question to answer. Right? Okay. Anything else? All right, perfect. I see a bunch of comments as well. Raghav, do we want to go through the comments?
I think some of these you've touched on some of these. I mean, if you want to scan them and then see if you missed something, if you want to add some things, then you can.
From the lens of someone trying to understand the anatomy of a compelling pitch, what in your view are the most critical elements that
And some of those are generic, like we don't want to focus on that. Yeah. Let's go on the
level insights in the space where many startups solve similar problems. How do you ensure your solutions to be differentiated? Okay, I think that's touched upon already. Go to the investor only after an early traction without product. September. Okay, my question is, do I need to start pitching now? Okay, that's a very difficult question to answer, Anton. It depends on the product, depends on the... So it depends on the product, it depends on the traction, it depends on a lot of different variables. I can't generalize it and say that this is the right time.
Okay.
If you are building the next drone, if you are building the next defense tech, if you're building the next quantum computer, if you are into MR, VR, or some deep tech AI space, do it. If not, then it depends on the business. It's not an easy answer to give, right? FOMO is very real. FOMO is very real. Okay, if people start believing that I'm not backing something up that's going to move the needle in the next 5 years, they will get on the show. That's why you'll see a lot of investments being made which don't make sense to us normal people, but they happen.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So very difficult question to answer. We'll need actually we can have more conversations about this at a later point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that.
No problem. Would it be possible to give others a chance to ask questions too? I'd love to hear more perspective. Okay, I don't know what the question is, Reena. Okay, revenue figures seem underwhelming. Okay, so that's a lot of discussion. Your question is very open-ended, Reena. It will take hours to go through and dissect everything that has happened. Paralyzed wheelchair person with no support looking to get into this founder world all alone with this one. What advice would you give me that will help me in execution? Two things, Abhijit. One, there's nothing stopping your mind to work. So, forget about everything else. If you can talk to people, build people find people who are willing to back you up in terms of your ideas, in terms of your thought processes. You can certainly do more research. As long as your brain is there, you are good to go. I don't see that as a limitation. Okay. Build your following, build a community, find co-founders who can be your feet on the ground. But that's not a limiting factor in my mind. You know about this, the story of Shrikant Bola, right? Very well-known movie has been made about it. Nothing stopping you. If you're truly dedicated, that's in your mind. Find more people who can back you up. Okay, I think that's about it. Anybody else has anything, please bring it up. Otherwise, I'm done. Thank you so much, everyone.
No, I think we're running out of time. We have to close now. So thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Sandhya and Manoj for presenting. So we do it on a monthly basis. So anybody else in the audience who wants to pitch in the upcoming workshops, please go to the website that I've linked below. It's thestartupclub.info, and you'll find the link to register for it. And you'll also find the link to download our app, which is Clickin, which is something that we have built to help founders get access to the resources that they need. So that's about it for this month's workshop. So we'll catch up in the next one. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Amiya.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day. And thanks, Sandhya, Manoj. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Amiya. Thank you so much, Raghav. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best, Manoj, sir. Come and have a nice pitch.